Pretty much completely unscripted video here, just riding off of the personal experience I've had reviewing both this and this. So the rest of the team, you guys go relax. What do we have here? You have the 13.3 and the 10.3 inch. This is the A4, this is the A5. You can tell because this one's massive and this one's not. In fact, it doesn't even fit in frame that well, but for the most part, this is what it is. We are going to hit both of these on, and we're going to do NFC unlock. So you see we have our phone here, and we'll just go bing and boom, and both of them will unlock. This one's low on batteries, but 12% should last us 4 days. So, what are we dealing with here, guys? We have the Fujitsu Quaderno Bing Bang Booms. This is a test of which one suits you better, because they're the exact same device from the same manufacturer with the same OS and the same everything. Everything. There's only a few subtle differences that you guys won't care about, but I'm going to mention. This is more white. This has a little bit more blue in it. They used different plastic materials for their bezels on this and this. That's pretty much it from the design standpoint. They both have NFC, they both have USB-C, they both have the little button at the top that drops down the top down. And that's basically it. 13.3 means you can have a ton more screen real estate. And the 10.3 means you don't have as much. It's very small. This is like a Kindle Scribe, and this is like a Note Max. What does that mean for how we take notes and everything? Now, there is one thing to mention, and that is this actually has better pixel density than that. Yes, you heard it here first, not really. The black and white is 227 ppi with 113 ppi in color at 1872 by 1404 on the little guy, and the big one has 207, 103, and then 2200, 1650 respectively. So you will see the pixel density is actually tighter and more packed in on this one than this one. Not by a whole lot, but it is. So there's not going to be a lot of function we're going to show you in terms of a comparison between those two, because they don't do anything different. It is very important for us to state that. In fact, the only visual difference is the fact that this uses a thinner, smaller font because it needs to accommodate for a smaller screen. Whereas this one, if it used the same size, it would only accompany the first half of the unit. So it needs to be more bloated up. So you get almost like a large print mode on this one, but it's the same thing. Every setting, every single thing you would ever tap is identical with no compromise whatsoever. So what we're going to do is just show you a PDF book and what it really looks like to see these side by side. Now, there's no way to really change the font on this because it's not meant to have that kind of text augmentation, so you're pretty much locked into what it looks like here with a little bit of pinch and zoom availability as well. From here you can do your notes, you can take your highlights, and all of it is really good. In fact, you can highlight over your highlights and it gets darker and darker and darker with each iteration. That's really nice. Now this is obviously going to be displaying it a little bit more clearly because it's so large and it's going to fit more on the screen, but this just looks better. It honestly does. And that's not being swayed by the numbers, although the numbers are accurate. It is more the sense that the blacks are blacker on this one, and we're going to show you some pictures in a little bit, but the lines are just kind of more tight and less fuzzy, and on a device this big to have such a small paltry resolution and overall pixel density, it's just not looking as good as the little guy. But for the most part, this is the ebook reading experience. It's not an ebook reader, so we're not going to touch on that much longer, and we will go into some note taking in just a moment. Also, yes, the pen is the exact same, and you can use any pen on the market. You can use the Scribe pen, you can use the Onyx pen, you can use all sorts of pens, so don't worry about that. Let's go look at this one, for example. This is very evident where the blacks are way richer on here than they are on here. And the thing is, we can't adjust anything because there's no glow light, no vivid control, no contrast dial, nothing. So it's just this. This is as good as it will look, and this will only look the way it looks. But you can see the blacks in his hair here. The red is a little bit more vibrant. And on the 13.3, it's a little bit more light There's a subtle more gray in there. It's almost as if you can see the individual dots on the hand, for example, on the reds, on the black. You can almost see the resolution and see the pixels to just kind of sum it up, surmise what we're talking about. But on here, it's just a little bit more smooth. It honestly is just a little bit tighter, a little bit more crisp, and it just makes the visuals so much better. And in the realm of having these two devices, i.e. devices you cannot alter with light sources, glow lights, or otherwise, the baseline visual is everything. So it definitely goes to this as more of a rich and robust appearance than this one. Again, the screen real estate comes into play, and it can come into play right now because we have the exact same palette on everything, and this is going to be impossible to show on camera, but we will do it. What we're going to do is display documents side by side, and what this does is honestly splits the entire operating system in half on both of these and gives you two separate Quadernos. We'll start with the A5, and we covered this in our review, so don't worry. What we have here looks like we just split everything into a two-page spread, but we didn't. We actually have two of the same thing open. And if you go here, I'm going to choose the PDF book we just went to. So I have this book in its entirety, alone, on this side. And on this side, I have a gallery of photos. I can mark up anything I want here. I can mark up anything I want there. I can still highlight. I can still go to the palette. I have two separate, albeit tiny 6-inch Quadernos parallel to each other, running alongside. And I think it makes no sense on the A5 and makes all the sense on the A4. Look at this. Now we're cooking with gas. Look how beautiful this is. I can go to a blank portrait. I can do all my notes here. I can mark this up. I can say, oh wait, you know what? I do need that book, and I want it on this side. And yes, we can swap sides. You click here and you drop the top down and it says swap screens. Now I have my book here. I can make my highlights and say, oh yeah, okay, so page 32, blah, blah, blah. Look at that. I have split my Quaderno in half, and I have two separate autonomous operating systems. Very, very cool. And this comes with the fact that it is a very simple device. It is a PDF engine device only. So with that, you get a lot of simplicity when you approach everything this thing does. And it really does shine, not physically because it has absolutely no glow light whatsoever, but it really does shine that they kept things so simple that everything works all the time. And it is not meant to be a spec powerhouse. They've never advertised themselves as, we have Google Play, we have SD card, we have calling and fingerprint unlock. They've never said that because they can't do that. That goes against the core nature and the core makeup of the devices themselves. So on this clean page, let's open up the palette and choose a different pen on both just for fun. And again, we have individual reviews on both of these. We compared this against the Remarkable. We compared this against the Scribe. There's a lot of coverage on these, so you're not missing out. Don't worry. You can hit up the end roll or the description down below or any of the video cards that you see along the way. So we're just going to choose, we'll choose this one right here, and we'll choose a red with large, and we'll choose that's a calligraphy pen. Maybe we'll go over to just the pencil, and we'll do a large green. There we go. Now these both do have pressure sensitivity, so you don't have to worry about that, but let's just do some light notes. It feels so good. It really does. I say this time and time again, no, Fujitsu does not sponsor us. They don't pay us. They don't compensate us. No one has ever told us to say this, ever. But if you are looking for the most realistic depiction of a piece of paper on a hard surface with a pencil on it, you cannot beat the Quaderno. The reason is they're using a plastic screen. This is a plastic screen. It is a flexible screen. It's a flexible device. You can see you can flex it pretty drastically, and it's not going to break or anything because it doesn't have a glass layer. There's no gigantic Gorilla Glass chunk on top that's preventing you from doing that. This thing is good to go, and it uses a plastic film on the top with a plastic screen and a plastic bezel cover. This whole thing feels precisely like you have a graphite pencil, a lead pencil on. Oh, geez, look, it's even different on this one because the middle prospectively has less support from any of the adhesives and the edge, how strong the edge needs to be. So it's tighter up here and more loose in the middle. So it almost just gives you this absolute dynamic feel throughout. It is such a joy to write on this. We have lots of people saying, oh, there's tons of latency and there's no Google Play, so I can't do OneNote and stuff like that. You are correct. Look somewhere else. That's not what these are for. These are this is a one-trick pony. You do note taking, you draw a line, you erase a line, you draw a box, you erase the box. That's all it's for, is a simple note-taking device. It is a productivity device, and this thing is meant to be for people that just need very simplistic markups on a very secure device by one of the largest manufacturers, not only in the world of consumer electronics and electronics in general, but in the e-ink world. Fujitsu has backed these devices so hard from day one and have really held on to the legacy of the Sony DPT that really started it all. They had the crossover between the Sony DPT and the Fujitsu Quaderno that now turned into the Quaderno Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3 respectively, because they kind of took the shell of the DPT when it was in its RP1 stage, P1, and they took it to make the Quaderno 1, 2, and now 3C. So that's kind of the roadmap of where they are today, and they have done it justice every step of the way. Yes, there's no glow light. So does the Readmoo out of Taiwan. The Readmoo Pro 2C has no glow light. It's very similar to this. In fact, they use the same Linfini company to make these shells, who are teamed up with, funnily enough, Sony, that helps make the shells for these units, and Readmoo. So there's a whole history and lore around these units, but my goodness, does it feel real. Honestly, to goodness, it does. And really, to sum up, the only differences in these two devices is this is, you know what, let's get a new page here. This is lighter. This has cost savings, and it's smaller. 10.3. This is 13.3, costs more money, and is heavier, and it's bigger. I mean, that's really it. And I like how they haven't changed the operating system in 3 generations. And that's not passive aggressiveness. I genuinely like that there is a company still like Fujitsu who is out there that's like, you know what? Don't mess with it. Don't fix what ain't broke. Don't mess with perfection. And within the realm of productivity devices that are single use case, like these ones, that aren't trying to be anything but itself, because there's a ton of room in the industry for people that are already doing Google Play and high specs and 256 gigs onboard storage with 2 terabyte SD card support. These guys aren't doing that, and they're doing the best at what they're doing. And I truly do hope that Fujitsu continues and doesn't change a thing moving forward, except for the next big thing. So if the next big thing is refresh, so be it. If the next big thing is calling support for some reason, every single manufacturer, including Amazon, wants to get on that, so be it. But don't strive too far away from perfection. And honestly, these two have really hit the nail on the head. If you guys wanted to know the differences between these two units, this is it. It's very simple. I have padded the runtime a lot, trying to go into the lore of everything, but that was to a means to an end, because we do want to show you guys and tell you guys that companies like Linfini and Sony and Fujitsu and Readmoo, they all kind of work together to release their own respective products and back each other up, and it's just a very nice community in and of itself. Thanks for watching. Comments down below.